Yeah. All right. As everybody come in, I would like to say, what's up, Blueprint family? How are you all doing tonight? Thank you all for joining us. Please take a seat. Take a seat. Come on in. Come on in. All right. So,
Happy Friday.
yep. Happy Friday, Marriage Fit Friday.
Yes.
Made it to the end of the weekend.
The week.
I mean, the week. Made it to the end of the week, which is the weekend.
Yeah.
Start of the weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank
That
you all
is
for
true.
joining us. So tonight's topic is all about how to level up the admiration in your relationship. This is a good one. So we're going to teach and talk about admiration, basically how to basically make the best of wanting to get closer to your spouse, loving them, showing appreciation, respect, all of those things. So let's
Pull it
dive
up
in.
on
Yeah.
our sound. Mic check. Mic check. Gotta make sure we do that. It's on time tonight, see?
Yep, we are
Okay,
on
good.
time tonight. Yes, we are.
That is good. All right. Let us, as always, though, live show. So anytime you have any questions, comments, say what's up, talk to us, talk back. I hope you guys really enjoy all the things we talked about tonight. I feel whether you're single or married or engaged to be married, you'll benefit from this as well. This comes from a great question. We're going to pull this on up on YouTube. It's a quick question, but it's a really good question that helped. Bless you, baby.
Excuse me. Thank you. Thank you kindly.
That helped us get on into this topic. So I'm going to pull this on up. It's short, so Instagram, you'll be able to easily follow along with us as we go along. Let me know when you are ready.
I'm ready.
Okay. So the subject, how important is it for you to look up to someone you're dating? I have heard women say they want a man to teach them something. But if you are young and still have things to learn, how can you do that in a relationship? This kind of sparked this topic in particular because when I first read this whole aspect of I have heard women say, that they want a man to teach them something, it makes me really just think of admiration, and how that is, for one, that's one of my top fives. When you talk about your top 5 things that you just have to have in a relationship, this is one. And I don't even think we've covered what admiration is, how that looks in a relationship, and how that can be beneficial. But of course, it's another little avenue to this, the whole aspect of being young and still having things to learn.
No, yeah, I think you're right. We have not yet covered admiration. We've the closest thing I could think of is intimacy.
Right.
As if
Yeah.
that's the closest thing I could think of as far as admiration that we did cover as a topic. But I think admiration is like a gateway to intimacy, and especially growing a relationship.
It really is. And we're going to get all into that for how you guys can get deep in your intimacy by having admiration, because it is really essential for a healthy and happy relationship. What do you think about the question, though? Did you have anything to add?
No, not really. I mean, as far as being young in the, being young in the relationship, a woman can definitely learn from a man who has experienced a lot, and also too who has a, like I said, experience and knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely one way. Whether she's dating somebody who's older, of course,
Mm-hmm.
but if you're younger, he can only teach you things that he's experienced.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that thinks of me. That think about me and my relationship with you.
Mm-hmm.
I experienced a lot of things as far as life, different cultural stuff, and I was also a trivial person. So I did like to learn about, like some people say, useless information. But
not at all useless, but yeah.
But I mean, I was a science major, transitioned to a business major, but science has taught me a lot. Science is all about the living world, and a lot of trivial knowledge goes into science. So with that, as a young man, I did like to experience and explore things like that. So I think that's what gave me a lot of knowledge and insight. But you can only teach people teach people those things that you've experienced and that you've learned. So
yeah,
that's pretty much it.
Yep. And then that's really kind of where I thought about admiration coming in, because if you are young, then in a way, just a lot of it will come from being your drive, being how you carry yourself, your overall. Well, let's just dig on right on in, because admiration in general is defined as a feeling of respect and high regard for someone. So even if you are young, you can have respect for a person, especially if they carry themselves in a way that's admirable. And that was one thing, of course, right off back I recognized about you. So that really was an attracting, building thing, like you had mentioned earlier, because in general, in a relationship, admiration really means that you value and appreciate your spouse's qualities, both the good and the bad, and everything in between. But you respect their choices, their values, their goals, all the things that make them who they are. That really makes you proud, and proud of their accomplishments and all of that. And in general, that is going to be inspired by their strengths. It should be. Your admiration should really be inspired by that. But again, like we talked about, the weaknesses.
The first part, you said admiration means that you value and appreciate your spouse's qualities, both good and bad. Should you really admire your spouse's bad qualities?
In the sense of those qualities, like you say, it would be one of those things where in the comments of your idea of something being useless, which you may view as, something like, oh, I just learned a lot of trivial stuff. That, to me, I view that as not a bad thing. It's a really great quality to have.
No, I don't think that's bad.
Then, yeah, but then in the sense of also too, if you notice that you have things that you're working on, and you can admire the fact that this person is an awareness of it and that they're actively working on it and trying to get better. And that's important, especially if you're young. That's kind of why I thought about that in particular, because if you're young and you're in a young relationship hypogamous, is it hypogamous? Homogamous. Yeah. Homogamous is of your peers' status, age. Yeah. So usually in those relationships, you're going to see a lot of the good and the bad in that person, because you have to grow up together. You have to have that grace with each other and be understanding of it. But in those moments where you see them in their bad, that is where the admiration can come in. If you see that they're actively trying to improve, trying to get better, they're coming back from it, they're learning their lessons, they're doing the things, that really will help them to be a better person. So that would make you.
It's really about the person.
Yes.
Instead of just their bad habits.
Right. Yeah. Not bad habits. Yeah. Okay. Good clarification. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's not just like habits or nothing. No, but like the ideas of you being able to work on those bad qualities if you have them. Yeah. That's all about admiration. You need that in order to feel that respect. And that is important, I think, for the man to mainly bring in, because like he says, the women say they want a man to teach them something. That gives them something to respect. That gives them something to say, like, wow, I can really go under your covering, and I trust that you will be a good leader in that. And that is a big feat to fill if you're young, because you might not be there yet. So. But yeah, that's overall where admiration would come into play for this question, in my opinion. But we can dig on deeper into why admiration is important if you want to, or if you have anything else.
No, that's it. Yeah, okay. We can dig on it.
I'm going to close this question on up. Okay. So, admiration.
So admiration is important in a relationship because it strengthens the bond between you and your spouse. So when you admire your spouse, you feel closer to them and more connected. You feel like you are on the same team and you are working together towards a common goal.
Yeah, that's in particular super big, especially if you're young. And I keep going back to this whole aspect of young, because the guy said, if I'm young. So, but in particular, that's big. If you want, to really connect with a person that you're growing with, that chance to work together and grow together can really help that relationship flourish. And that's why you get the you won't shoot with me in the gym type thing, because you build that bond when you're really in there and y'all doing it. Like that's where that bond comes from. And you will come to admire each other for that, for sure. I always think about the reason why I love admiration, and I put it in my top 5, is because out of a lot of the studies that I have read over like relationships, I've done a lot of research on like relationships. I love peer review articles. I love seeing actual science-based methods that are going in, talking to, relationships and seeing the vitality of the whole relationship based off of certain characteristics. And admiration is like huge, and it's been studied for a long time. There are so many studies on admiration. And the first one that always comes to mind, it was one that was in the 1980s, and it was really started by like John Cotman and Robert Levinson. I had to make sure to write these notes down. But in particular, they were big on studies during this time and had two of the, one in 1980s, but one in like 1992. I remember that because I was born that year. But in particular, just those studies looked at admiration and the important role that having admiration played on the longevity and the overall happiness of the relationship. So it found, in particular, this one study, the first one, one of the oldest ones, found that couples who reported feeling fondness or in general admiration for each other were likely to have a happy and satisfied relationship, and were more likely to actually look to resolve their conflicts within their relationships. And if we know anything about, relationships, you got to be able to solve those conflicts. So when you actually admire someone, it gives you that motivation to even want to, work through things with them. That was just one study.
Yep. So another study published in the journal Personality and Social Psychology Bulletin in 2009 found that people who admire their spouses were more likely to feel good about themselves in their relationships. They were also more likely to be forgiving and less likely to engage in destructive behaviors such as arguing or criticizing.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And another one, we're going to kind of just go down a couple studies because, like I said, this was studied since the 1980s. It has been studied pretty extensively. There's a lot of studies that you can go out. We're going to give you the names and the dates so that y'all can go out and check them out, for yourself. But there are so many studies that if you would just want to see more, it's certainly very fascinating just to see. But the University of California, Berkeley in 2012 found that people who admired their spouses were more likely to be attracted to them and feel motivated to stay in a relationship. They found that these couples were more likely to have sex and to report being satisfied with their sex lives. So that goes right into what you were saying about, that's attractive.
What you call it, the intimacy
Mm-hmm.
building. So, that is very important. So you need to know whether or not you admire the person that you are with, and that helps strengthen the bond between you all.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also a key indicator. If you ask that question, hey, what do you admire about me?
Mm-hmm. Or ask yourself, like, dang, what do I admire about my spouse? If you haven't asked yourself that, please take the time to ask yourself that.
Or if you're questionable about the person you're dating,
mm-hmm.
you ask them, hey, what you've been dating for about, a month, 3 months now. What do you admire about me?
Mm-hmm.
And see what they say.
Yeah.
If they stutter and say, whoa, I don't know. I never thought of that. Then you probably have some issues that you need to work out with that person.
Yeah, because they might not be looking at you in that eye.
Right, exactly.
And they should. You as well, you should definitely, both of y'all, be able to point out things that you admire about your spouse. We're going to help y'all do that a little bit later on, but we're going to dig more so into some great facts about just admiration and why it's really important, because it really genuinely is. Even a more recent study that was found, that was published in 2022, it was published in the Journal of Couple and Family Psychology Research and Practice. They found that admiration is associated with greater relationship satisfaction, commitment, and even controlling for other factors such as love, intimacy, and communication. So it's just, all of this stuff is just piggybacking onto each other. Like when you have that admiration, you're more likely to fall in love with the spouse, want to, build that intimacy with them. And in particular, looking to communicate what I think of in a respectful manner, because you admire them. And when you admire someone, you really should look to, not want to disrespect them, because, you should feel, slightly disrespected yourself, or even just wanting to do that to someone who you say you love, So it's just really important. And those studies just really show that if you really want to strengthen your relationship and you really want to build and grow in your relationship, no matter how early it is in the relationship or how late it is in the relationship, you really have to start admiring each other, and in physical and verbal and ways that we're gonna, get into a little later. But
when you admire someone, you see them as being valuable, worthy, and deserving of your respect. This can lead to feelings of attraction and desire. However, if you don't admire your spouse, you may find yourself less attracted to them, of course. So, that makes all the sense. So, that I guess besides love in the relationship starting out, admiration is a very important um uh, trait to have in that relationship and with the person that you are with. I see this information now, and it really shows that it does provide the opportunity for a long lasting relationship. So with love and admiration, you know.
Yeah. But like you were saying, it is important to note that if you don't admire your spouse, it will have some damaging effects on the longevity of your relationship, like
Right.
you were saying.
And then that looks like those guys who just you know those guys who are not so committed in a relationship. They may not so much admire the person that they're currently dating. They may be dating more than one woman. So they may not come across as you as somebody who that they really admire a lot. They're not buying you flowers and giving you that eye contact and that clear communication. Oh, thank you for the hearts. We really appreciate it. But no, yeah, that comes off that way, and you can tell. Like I get that. With somebody, those players out there, those players don't really admire those women that they're dating. And I get this now by what we're talking about, breaking it down.
Yeah. And this is a conversation that's needed because you really see it. Like you're saying, you really see it because if you don't feel connected to your spouse, you're going to feel like, something's missing.
Right.
And then you're more likely to cheat. Studies have shown that you are more likely, and we're going to get into those studies too, because these studies that we talked about actually did report those findings as well. And it was more likely to cheat, one of the main ones that happened.
And like in women who are gold diggers.
Yeah.
And you may not, know it. If you ask them, hey, what do you admire about me? And if they say, they're your money, then then more than likely you got a problem on your hands. So yeah, I get that. I really do get that. And I think that's kind of hard to hide, whether you admire somebody or not. Somebody can say that they love you, of course, but I think that is deeper. Like, do you admire me? Like, what is it that you admire about me? And I think that's deeper because, instead of saying like, why do you love me, or asking them, why do you love me, or whatnot. I think admiration is it's probably more deeper than love. Especially if you have the combination of the two, because
it will lead to love for sure. That is love and what, in action.
Right. And especially if you have an ego, that question could be very different and difficult for someone with an ego to answer that. Hey, let me put my ego aside and answer this question about why I admire this woman or this man.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I would encourage people to ask if they're dating somebody, that question, what is it that you admire about me? Don't ask, do you admire me? Ask them, what is it that you admire about me, and see what they say.
Yeah, because when you don't admire your spouse, then you are definitely more likely to focus on their shortcomings, their flaws. That's going to lead to you being more critical. You're going to be more judgmental. And overall, you're going to have an attitude, and that's going to just damage the relationship. So certainly that is where that will come right on in. And that you got to take the time to sit back and evaluate. Am I critical? Am I judgmental because of me lacking admiration for my spouse in the way that I should? And it's okay. We always talk about this. It's all about awareness. We're not, trying to make you feel bad or nothing like that, but you have to have that awareness so that if you do feel bad, you look to change it. You look to be better for your spouse and actually look to focus on the things that you do admire about them, especially if you can't answer that question.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. If you can't answer that question, you with that person, then there's some things you need to reflect on and reconsider, I guess, or things that, like my wife said, you need to change. Because your relationship is, you will then realize that your relationship is shaky. You're standing on shaky ground. So you really need to think about ways to build that admiration and that intimacy in your relationship.
Yes. Yeah. Because again, too, if you don't admire your spouse, then you are going to feel less motivated to stick it out with your spouse and stay in it when things get hard. When they're showing you their ugly side, you're going to be more likely to do things that aren't going to be beneficial for your relationship if you don't actually admire them and say, hey, I want to be with them because, I love him, I love her, whatever. And you just really want to make it work because you know that they're a good, genuine person, all the qualities that go into that. And we'll talk about for sure some ideas on how to do that. But if you wanted to, we can just drop real quick into how these studies talked about the lack of admiration and how they actually do lead to more likely to lead to divorce if you don't have it.
No, but before we go, before we go into the next portion of it, I would like to ask, to say thank you to all the Instagram viewers and the YouTube viewers. So
and Facebook.
Facebook, and I think that's it. Yeah, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram viewers. If you all can also please subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, and then also to like and share those videos that we have up there, and this live video as well. We would really appreciate it. We are at 319 on our YouTube. So if we could have just one person to go over from Instagram to like on our YouTube page, I would really admire you. So with that being said, let's go ahead and continue.
That's funny. But either way, thank you all for being here for sure. Because this genuinely, I know this is going to continue to grow. And I'm just letting God have his way with this. So
it is
y'all
growing. And we have more interviews. We have more interviews coming up with other folks as well that you all can hopefully stay tuned for. So
get some value out of.
Yeah, we're growing and we're doing different things and moving the culture forward. So all right. So what's next? So some studies, we're right there. Some studies have also shown that couples who lack admiration for each other are more likely to get divorced. So that is of course. So be mindful of that. So, for example, a study by John Gottman and Robert Levinson, published in 1992, found that couples who reportedly feeling less fondness and admiration for each other were more likely to divorce within 15 years. That's amazing. So these people actually stay in these relationships.
If anything,
on
for
average,
the kids.
Right? Yeah, that's what it looks like on average. So all of that has died in the relationship, the intimacy, the love, the passion, the wanting to actually be of service for the other person who they made a life with for 15 years. Without admiration, without fondness and admiration, you're on average to only last for 15 years. And that reminds me of that sunken cost fallacy. That is a big one for 15 years. So that means that you're willing to just throw all of that relationship away. More than likely, you don't have a prenuptial agreement. So you'll, depending on if your wife is working. So you're if your wife decides to have a divorce, to initiate divorce, on average, women do by 80%. Then she's going to walk away with 2/3 of what you currently have.
I thought it was half.
No, it's actually like 2/3.
Correct.
Yeah. In alimony. So that's only within like a couple years, probably like 5 to 7 years of having to pay alimony. So
keep that admiration up. Lord have mercy, guys. It's true. Like, and that's always what comes to my head is these are the couples that stick it for the kids, because you don't lost everything else from it. You just want to hold on to the kids. But to be honest, that's no way to have a good relationship. And if you are married and you are having some issue with admiration, I hope that you first do the work to try to get yourself there and get back into why you even decide to get married in the first place. I always think about that. Like, there's a reason why every married couple wants to get married. There's that moment,
I digress though, but I think this is only what I think is that, especially those couples who wait until their children are 18. I think that men probably initiate those divorces more than women do. Yeah, of course, but along the way they're having trouble in their relationships, maybe signs of infidelity, signs of just loss of admiration in relationship. I've seen this happen when I was young with some friends, their parents. They divorced, after they've graduated high school, which was very interesting. But just to see them and hearing the things in the community about this couple, someone stepping out of the relationship, and you will always, and I would never believe it to see him, because I used to go over their house and things like that. And then for it to finally happen, it was just like, wow, these people actually put up with each other for so long just to see the kids graduate and then get a divorce.
Yeah.
Very interesting. And you put
Yeah.
your life on hold for that long until your children graduate from high school or whatever.
Yeah, and that's actually very unfortunate too, because aside from all of that, if you are unsatisfied in your relationship, in particular, the study we talked about earlier with the personality, the journal, and the personality and psychological bulletin, what they found was that couples who do not admire each other were more likely to engage in destructive behaviors. So arguing, criticizing, being judgmental, being, disrespectful
All
in how
the
you
time.
communicate. Yeah, all of that. And so your children are also going to be witnessing this. And in particular, they also found that these couples were more likely to report feeling unhappy and dissatisfied with their relationships and relationships in general. Like after, so if these are the couples that be like, oh, marriage is hard, don't do this, or I like
Yeah.
if I could do it all over again,
Yeah, I
like
would, yeah.
these are those couples because they didn't have that, what I feel is a very, very, very important, essential aspect of your relationship, and that's admiration. You really have to admire your spouse, and these studies genuinely show that it's super important. The study we talked about with the University of California, kind of going back to the sexual intimacy part, they also found that couples who do not admire each other definitely report having less sex, going, kind of piggyback on what it's saying. So that is a huge part of being connected to your spouse. So those are also the relationships where you're probably sleeping in different bedrooms or stuff like that. Like y'all just, you're putting up with each other. That is no way to have a relationship. So if anything, along with, making sure that they're a good person and worthy of being admired, please make sure that you admire your spouse and really sit down and figure out, like, what do I like about her? What do I like about him? Because that, I think, in particular, why I always, even before I kind of dug into what these studies were talking about, I always thought admiration was important, especially during those hard moments, because it really makes you not want to give up. So when your spouse gets on your nerves, or you're just angry with each other or upset, admiration kind of like leads the way for you to have a positive thought in your head. And that's important in those moments where your thoughts are real negative. You got to be able to reach for a better feeling thought and reach for a better feeling thought. So overall, your mind is in a better space to move forward with your spouse. Because if you keep clinging on to all the flaws, the negatives, all the things that are going wrong, and you can't reach for that good feeling thought because you've never thought about anything good about your spouse, then, that's unfortunate because you're already kind of trapped,
Right.
Yeah.
So, and the most recent study published in the journal Couple and Family Psychology Research and Practice in 2022 found that couples who did not admire each other were more likely to report feeling disconnected and disengaged from their relationships. These couples were also more likely to say that they would not recommend their relationship to others. So that goes to what you were saying about those people who say that, don't get married and all this other stuff, and they don't condone marriage, and they themselves are in a marriage.
Yeah, or whatever role that they're playing, they don't like that role. Like, oh, don't do this. Like, I wish I didn't do that, or
Well, it was had they took the right steps to actually, grow together, ask the right questions while they were dating, that would probably prevented a lot of what was going on. Had they took the time to mature in their relationships, this would probably prevent these separations in their relationships.
Yeah, because like you said, it helps you. When you are not admiring your spouse, you're disengaged,
right?
And that's huge. And so I always think about even the women who be like, "Oh, my husband doesn't do anything. He doesn't spend time with me. He seems disconnected, disengaged." There's something. A lot of that admiration is missing. So there are some things that you need to do in order to get that connection back, in order to build up that engagement within your relationship. Because if not, that's you're on shaky ground, like you said. Yeah.
So admiration is an important ingredient in a happy and successful relationship. Here are some ways to show your spouse that you admire them. So, number one, pay attention to their strengths and accomplishments. When you see your spouse doing something well, Let them know that you appreciate it. It could be anything from a small act of kindness to a major achievement. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing. Like when I fix something around the house, I'm like, honey, go
Mhm.
look at this. Like, check that out.
Yeah, and then
So
to
I'm
go do
trying to,
that. Or in general, just any little thing that you do, just being thankful for. You take, people always be like, oh, those are basic duties. There is nothing wrong with being appreciative for those basic duties being done.
right.
That is a great thing. That is how you stay engaged and connected in your relationship. You have to verbalize it. Every night you help out at the end of the night, we help out each other doing the dishes. Thank you for doing the dishes. Most of the time we already know we're going to help do them together, especially if you had a lot of dinner or something. We know that. And
Right.
so we'll work together, but we still say thank you to each other. And anytime we do anything, for the most part, we have gotten into the practice of being thankful for that. And that is how you really come to keep that happy thought in mind. Like we were saying about your spouse and admiring them, especially when that their accomplishments, what you were saying about the building things, even like promotions at work. I think about that, like any type of passing tests in school, like all types of things. So even in particular for that, the young, I don't know if that was a guy or a girl, but
There was a woman who wrote that.
Oh yeah, okay, I forgot. But the person in particular, the young person, like saying, about the whole aspect of admiration. Well, when you do those accomplishments, when you make those accomplishments for yourself, pay attention to the men or the women who are there and they're like, oh wow, I see you, good job. Like they could be really somebody that's looking to, they have that admiration for you. And so that is, going to be a great start, especially if they're a friend who's always showing you and giving you your props and stuff like that. So that's something to really think about if you're dating somebody. Do they admire you? Are they happy for you when something goes well?
Right. Or are they jealous?
Mm-hmm. Or they ain't got nothing to say.
Right. Are they upset and mad?
Yeah, they should have something to say, and it should be great. Something that's gonna make you feel proud too. Like that. They ain't got nothing to say. Then that says a lot.
So also to be supportive of their goals and dreams. Let your spouse know that you believe in them and that you are there to help them achieve their goals. This could mean offering them encouragement, helping them brainstorm solutions, or simply being a sounding board.
Mm-hmm. That's big. And that also, we always talk about that being, supportive of each other. That's it. All of this, I think admiration in action really does support and build and help your relationship grow because it's going to show in so many different ways, and just being supportive. Yeah. If you're already doing that, if you're already looking to help out, others you don't have to give unsolicited advice too much, especially when it comes to men, because, you want your man to do his thing, but being that sounding board, being there and being supportive will really help him to step into his leadership role. And that's all the more better for you as a woman. So yeah, I agree with that for sure.
And then tell them how much you admire them and be generous with your compliments. Tell your spouse how much you appreciate them, both physically and emotionally.
Yeah.
This could be also as simple as saying, I admire the way you handled that situation, or I'm so proud of you for achieving your goal, or I admire your strength and determination, or I admire your sense of humor. Let your spouse know how much you appreciate them and their qualities.
Mm-hmm. And be generous. I love that. Just to say that again, because that's so important. Be generous with those compliments. Don't, when you see it, the opportunity arise, don't hold it in. If you have the thought pop in your head, say it. Don't like try to hold it back and be like, well, I ain't gonna, fill their head up too much.
Right.
No, fill their head up. Like that's what you do. You need to do that. That is going to support your whole relationship, and you're gonna really feel like each other's, fan, like in a way. And I always say that, like that was one big thing for me. I loved supporting you in everything you do because I am your number one fan. So it's always nice to feel and just say the things that are going to help you to, step into your role as a leader and be, continue to be your leader. So it's just a great thing for you to do. And then men too, do that as well. Admire your spouse when she's, coming home from work and still taking the time to cook for you and being there and being with the kids. Admire how she takes care of your children if you guys have children. Admire how she, just does little things that you don't even really thank her for all the time because she does it, just cause. Pay attention to that. That is how you get engaged with your spouse. I think a lot of women, they often say, oh, when they're talking about the man being disengaged, it's that aspect. The guy's not, noticing the little things that she does, little and big things that your woman does. Your woman needs to hear that, that you see her just same way that, you want her to see you.
Mm-hmm.
Next.
So next, be forgiving and understanding. So everyone makes mistakes. When your spouse makes a mistake, try to be understanding and forgiving. This doesn't mean that you have to agree with what they did, but it means that you should try to see things from their perspective.
Yeah, that's that part we were talking about earlier of the bad. Yeah. When the mistakes happen, don't beat them up about that. That's certainly not going to show them that you support them or that you respect them. That's what admiration is about,
Right, that's tough.
Yeah, somebody
just being mindful of that, because naturally, what you just get mad and upset, and of course you go through your emotions, but and then you just try to be very hard on that person. But that's the opposite of what we're saying tonight. So that's tough.
Yeah, you have to be understanding and forgiving. But that's again essential. We always say this a lot. Forgiveness, how important that is for a relationship, especially a lifetime relationship. And that's what we all should be working towards, having a relationship for a lifetime. And that's going to require forgiveness and a lot of it. So you got to get comfortable with, seeing your spouse and understanding that, hey, they made a mistake, but I understand, I get it. We all do it, but I'm gonna still love you anyway. I'm gonna hope you get your list together, but I'm gonna still love you anyway. Like you're gonna hold that positive thought in your mind about them so that they can get their stuff together. Because your negative energy of thinking bad about them and beating them down is not gonna help put them into a better spot. I always think of like how to be like, thank God my grandma is a praying grandma and stuff like that. In a way, a wife and a woman, you pray for your husband and you help him to excel when you hold that positive thought. That imagination is so important. So if you can see actively, vividly, even your husband, if he does things that, he made a mistake and you're a little upset about it, see him maybe doing it better. See him actually making that mistake better in your mind. Try to really hold that positive thought. That is like praying for him. That's like supporting him, all in your mind, all with energy. And you can't discount that at all. It's really important.
Yep. And then next, spend time together doing things that you both enjoy. This is a great way to connect with your spouse and to show them that you enjoy their company. So find activities that you can both get excited about and make time for them regularly.
Yeah, those hobbies. Gotta spend time together.
Mm-hmm. Whether watching movies, hiking, walking, just talking, and just spending time together, pretty much.
Yeah, especially if you got kids. Please make sure to do that. When you got kids, you got to dedicate that time for adult time. That is so important. So important.
Yep. And next, do something nice for them without being asked. This could be anything from cooking dinner to giving them a massage. So doing something nice for your spouse shows that you are thinking of them and that you care about them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that is a surefire way to show your admiration. Because of course I say it all day today so far, but admiration is all about your thoughts. So yeah, think about them.
And then next, listen to them attentively. So when your spouse is talking to you, give them your full attention. This means putting away your phone, making eye contact, and really listening to what they have to say.
Yeah. Especially this technology world we live in. We are by default immersed in our phones. I even think about how important it is to have that screen-free family time in general, especially if you have kids. Like, let your children see you without the phone in your hand. That's also important for your spouse. Your spouse needs to know that even though y'all, always maybe together or y'all been talking all day, just really, especially if y'all been talking through the phone all day, just really making time to be personal with each other is super important. That's where that connection is going to come from. And that eye contact, like you said, that's intimacy. It should give you those little tingly feelings, especially if y'all really are digging each other and looking in each other's eyes and stuff.
Yep. And then encourage them to grow and learn. So help your spouse to set goals for themselves and support them as they work towards achieving them.
Yeah.
This could mean helping them find resources, offering them feedback, or simply being there to cheer them on.
Mm-hmm. This is big if you find yourself in the situation of not really admiring your spouse, right? So it happens. That's the main reason kind of why we're wanting to do this. So even if you recognize that you're on the lowest level of admiration you could have within your relationship, take that upon yourself to help your spouse to grow to that, better place to where you really want to see them in. Maybe if that, you don't have to be, pushy or demanding, but offer suggestions, send little articles versus sending, mindless stuff to each other. Send stuff that are going to help you all think and you all grow together as you go along. That can really help them be more proactive in bettering themselves, especially if you're in a marriage and it's kind of like stagnant. Take on that initiative. At some point, what I always remember is that when it comes to a relationship, at some point, both of you all are going to have to be willing to be that bigger person and step up and initiate all the time. So if one spouse is, the one that's slacking and you notice it, then that means that it's your turn to try to help, jumpstart things back up, and vice versa. If, you see that happening, you really got to be willing to do the things that are going to help your spouse to grow and support them in that. There's nothing wrong with that. We got to get out of that. I don't want to mama nobody or, do nothing like that. It ain't even about that. Like, where is this? If you've learned something and you know how a person can do something better, why not tell them? Why not, especially, versus just being hard on them and, being mean to them? Like, why not just tell them how that they can better themselves and hopefully even support them and be encouraging? That is going to give you way more results than just pointing out all the bad stuff,
Right.
Yeah. Oh, that one.
Which one is it?
That one.
No.
Oh.
So make them feel special.
There we go.
This could mean do something unexpected for them. So giving them a gift or simply telling them how much you love and appreciate them. So make sure your spouse knows how special they are to you.
Yeah.
That reminds me of flowers. People who like flowers.
Or candy.
Yep. Or just gifts. Do not forget your anniversaries, birthdays, things like that. So that's what that's all about. That goes without, having to really provide an example. But
you'd be surprised. But yeah, like doing those special things for your tradition. Like traditional stuff that you all have like routinely that you do that is going to make that person feel good. That is really what that's all about. And it's, it's all going to take time in general. And these are really just a few ideas to get you started. What's most important, though, is that you find ways that you can do this that are more meaningful to your spouse, specifically. And or even the person that you're dating specifically. So that's going to take the time to, if you don't know much about them, you got to get to know them. You got to see, what what they like and what strengths they have, what we talked about, what their weaknesses and all of that, and actually see, how you can show a way for admiring them. If you love that this guy is a great leader, if you love that he takes the initiative, his decision making, show ways of how you can actually be like, hey, I'm going to make this known that I admire you for this, and then that comes off very attractive, even for the person that's on the receiving end of it. They'll be like, oh, you're noticing me, noticing you too. So be the start of something good. And then also too, when you really already know that person, do those things. Don't stop doing those things that you started doing, when the butterflies first started. Keep up with those. That's really how you keep it going. Yeah.
Yep. So by taking the time to do these things, you can strengthen your bond, increase your happiness, and motivate each other to be the best versions of themselves or yourself. So tonight we laid down the blueprint for admiration. I think that was a good one. That was the first time we ever did this show or this topic. Just remember, after the show, ask that person, what do you admire about me? Take it from there and see what they say and see where it goes. Hopefully it's a good answer for you. And if not, then maybe it's something that they can work on with you. So
yeah. For
Marriage
sure.
Fit Friday. I think that was a great topic. Great topic.
Yeah, it's important. You got to keep your admiration up. So don't be afraid of that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So with
Any
that being said, any
questions?
questions? Any
Let me see.
chats? Anything?
I'm going to check up. No, nothing yet. Thank you all for tuning in, though. Glad y'all hung on in with us on this Friday Friday night for a whole hour. So I'm
Yeah.
glad you all got something from it to be able to hang on.
Yeah. Yeah, and we appreciate you all. Thank you all for joining us every Monday through Friday. I know we have a lot of residual subscribers in there, and we really appreciate you all. We do this for you all, and at any time, if you all have any questions, especially relating to the topics that we have on the show that night, we really enjoy those. If you ask those, if you feel compelled to want to join us in a video chat or a like a conference call on the show, by all means, you are more than welcome.
Yeah, and married people too. I've noticed we have been getting a lot of other married couples and other people in relationships use this platform as an opportunity to really also talk about your experiences, the good things that have worked for you all, because I think more than ever, this positive example of a great healthy marriage is so important for our society to see, especially this generation coming up, to really see what that looks like and how happy and healthy you can be when you get into a happy and healthy marriage and do it the right way. Talk about your experiences. That's how the younger generation comes up with the knowledge to make the right decisions.
Right.
Yeah, and the right choices.
And seeing the example.
Yeah.
Seeing the example. So
yes. We always say that this is, if anything out of all of this, we look to hold this space, this vibrational alignment of being a good, healthy couple and a good, healthy example for other people to hopefully grab onto and create that within your own life. That's really what this is about. This is genuine, and we're excited for the growth of it and all the other things that we have coming from it. So thank y'all for tuning in.
Yeah. And then, like I said before, if you all can please, at least one person is get on YouTube and hit that like, subscribe button, share the videos. And until next time, Blueprint family, thank you all for coming out tonight. You all have a wonderful weekend. Peace.